Yes, guys, welcome to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. You can find me, if you haven't already, at Spurs Talk Show on Twitter and Spurs Talk Show, all one word, on YouTube. I'm a little bit late for doing this today. I'm not going to go live. I've got lots of things on with work, so I'm just going to spend maybe half an hour just going through my review, just me today, on the Leeds game that took place on Wednesday night. A great 3 points that kind of maybe gets us back going again for the top four, or at least the European spots. It's very close. You know, there's 4 or 5 teams that are still in and amongst it. But we're going to talk about Leeds today. We're not going to talk too much about the Middlesbrough game. That's for another day, which is tomorrow night. So let me just get my stream up and see what's going on. So just looking overall at the stats, obviously we won 4-0. It was pretty comfortable. I was doing the live stream with Jack, Dave and Marcelo over on the Irish Hotspur. And it's unusual when we're doing a stream to feel pretty comfortable after kind of 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the game being 2-0 up. My initial thoughts on the game were that, you know, Tottenham as a team looked really solid. I thought it was a great, you know, bounce back from the disappointment against Burnley. And, you know, it was interesting to see some of the players that stepped in, and they kind of really took the ball by the horns, took the game by the scruff of the neck. You know, a lot of us were worried about the fact that, you know, Bentancur was out injured after the Burnley game, and looks like he's going to be out for at least another week or so. So we were all worried about whether or not, you know, Harry Winks was going to be able to fit back into the 3-4-3 or the 3-4-1-2, however you want to look at it, with Harry Kane's kind of deep playing position. And you know, and ultimately, I thought he had a good game. We're going to go through the player ratings in a moment, but I just thought, generally speaking, it's difficult to know really how much we can take away from this game, because Leeds were so poor on the day. Leeds are the sort of team where you never know what you're going to be up against, and sometimes they can, you know, be inspired and cause mayhem for teams that are far better technically than they are. But you know, ultimately, that's happened few and far between this season, and we managed to catch Leeds on a really bad day, and it's a really sad day for obviously their manager Bielsa, who played or managed his last game for Leeds. You know, I've got a lot of respect for the guy. He does like to play his style, his way. You know, man-to-man marking throughout the team with an offensive approach, and obviously it does leave them sometimes wildly open at the back, and that's what we found against Tottenham Hotspur. It was probably the perfect game for Tottenham following the disappointment against Burnley. And if we look at the stats, you know, even though Leeds obviously had 19 shots over the course of the 90 minutes beating us, they only had 3 on target. They did hit the post late in the first half, when the game I think was 3-0, I believe it was at the time. It might have been 2-0. And if that had gone in, then, you know, the game might have gone a different way. But as it didn't, you know, then Tottenham went on to get the 4th in the second half, and from then on it was kind of pretty easy and coasty for Tottenham. Possession-wise was largely equal. The passing was largely equal. So was pass accuracy. You know, yellow cards obviously didn't really play too much of a factor in the end. You know, on the face of it, you could say that the game doesn't look too disparate, apart from the fact that Tottenham had 11 out of their 15 shots on target, which is a stat I haven't seen before from Tottenham. Very accurate with our shooting boots on. And the shots were coming from all over the pitch. You know, we had Sessegnon, we had Sonny, we had Dougherty, Kulusevski, Kane, everybody, Harry Winks, even I think Højbjerg had a shot as well. I think it was just a really important performance from pretty much everybody on the pitch. The only person that really let us down was probably Hugo Lloris. Not that he conceded any goals, but you know, SofaScore here giving him a rating of 7.1. I think that's madness for me. I think he gets a 5 out of 10 at best. You know, he was dribbled past in the second half, which could have led to not only a goal, but he did actually try to take out the player. And so on a different day, it could have been a red card. Apart from that, he had a relatively quiet game, but I do think he still looks a little bit out of sorts ever since he signed his new contract. I don't think I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or not that, you know, some players seem to, to get a new contract and then take their foot off the gas because their future is secure. I can't imagine that would be relevant to Hugo Lloris. I think it's just a coincidence with the timing, but certainly his confidence at the moment doesn't look to be fantastic. He has been, fairly vulnerable and culpable for a few of the goals that we've conceded, and against Leeds was no different. I don't really remember him having too many things to do. Obviously, there was the shot in the first half that hit the post, and he was miles away from that. So if that was 6 inches to the left, it would have gone in, and he would have conceded there. And obviously, like I say, the dribbling past when he came out, it would just look very, very sketchy. So he's really the only negative of the day. And we gave him a 5 out of 10, purely because a 6 out of 10 is kind of like your bare minimum if you don't have anything to do. But he did have a couple of things to do, and he didn't do them very well. So for me, it's a 5 out of 10 for Hugo Lloris. Christian Romero. Listen, I think Christian Romero was superb as one of the three centre backs. He had the most touches of all of the centre backs. I think he even had the most touches of everyone on the pitch, to be entirely honest. He definitely had the most accurate passes of all of the three centre backs at 92%. He did have a key pass in there as well. What was interesting about him, and I think Ben Davies you'll come to see, is that if you look at the heat map of where he played positionally throughout the game, he was very much playing what you consider to be more of a right back role than a centre back. I think Ben Davies, you'll see on the heat map when we come to him in a moment, was also very wide, which gave support for Matt Dougherty, gave support for Sessegnon to have a little bit more confidence to push forward, which was a key part of Tottenham's offensive mindset throughout the game. And I think Christian Romero was absolutely superb. I gave him a 7.5 out of 10. He did everything pretty much as he should. He had five ground duels, won 4 out of 5. He did lose the ball a few times, but and he was fouled quite a lot as well by Dan James for Leeds United. But he had a key pass, like I say, the most key passes of all the centre backs, and he had the fewest lost possessions of all the centre backs as well. So when you're comparing like for like on the day, I thought he was superb, and certainly gets a solid 7.5. On my channel, we're okay giving half points where necessary if we're going to differentiate. I thought Christian Romero was superb, solid. I love that look in his eye when he always wants to get involved in something physical, whether he's getting hit or hitting somebody else. I feel like he loves it. He's got that look in his eye. He's a bit of a kind of lunatic. He's certainly fast becoming a fan favourite at Tottenham. I think it's fair to say he's our most important centre-back. And it's great to see him kind of forging a decent relationship with Eric Dier. We haven't seen too much of him and Eric Dier together before this last few games because one of them or the other has always been injured. But they are playing together now in a few games, and they seem to be working pretty well together. So, all good things to see from Christian Romero, and long may it continue. We look at Eric Dier again, just looking, he had the second most touches. He's 71 touches overall, fairly good accuracy, 89%. I thought he was solid as well. Didn't have too much to do on the day. He tried a lot of long balls. I think he was fairly accurate with his long balls. I think 7 out of the 10 of them were successful, which is a really good return for someone who plays in the middle of the three. Did lose the ball a little bit, but made a lot of clearances. And then over the 90 minutes, I gave him a 7 out of 10. I thought he was really good. Like I say, he didn't have too much to do, so it's difficult to really criticise too heavily. And it's also difficult to really give too much praise or credit because it was one of those games where most of the action was further up the field. But overall, I thought he was really solid, played well with Christian Romero. And because Romero was hugging the right touchline and because Ben Davies was hugging the left, he had a fairly large area of the pitch to kind of chaperone throughout the 90 minutes. And I thought overall he did it really well. So really happy with Eric Dier, no complaints. And we can move on to Ben Davies. So Ben Davies, again, SofaScore giving him an 8 out of 10, 8.1. I don't agree. I think Ben Davies was probably the weaker of the three, although you can see again from the heat map that he was certainly hugging more of the left-hand side of the pitch than he was anywhere else. He was obviously incredibly pivotal when Hugo Lloris came out and was run past. He managed to get back. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to get back to put in that kind of goal-saving block through his body on the line fantastically well in that game. He did have the fewest passes, though, of all of the centre-backs. He had the least accurate passes of all of the centre-backs. And he did lose the ball the most of the three centre-backs. So in terms of what he was doing with the ball, it wasn't great. But off the ball, I thought he was superb. Like I say, he did make 3 block shots throughout the game. He's got no problem throwing his body on the line when the opposition are having a crack from outside the area. And like I say, he was pivotal in the moment when Hugo Lloris was rounded by their striker. So, like I say, not much to say. 84% at pass accuracy. I don't remember him doing too much wrong. But again, it's one of those days. For me, I gave him a 7 out of 10. I think that Christian Romero, for me, was the better of the three. And Ben Davies was probably, at least the stats would say, was probably the weaker of the three. But only just. I think they were all kind of much of a muchness. Had a pretty solid game. Can't argue with a clean sheet. And also, like I say, Ben Davies throwing his body on the line. Maybe I should have given him a 7.5. Maybe I've been a little bit tough on him there. Matt Dougherty, very close to being my man of the match in the right wing back. It was one of those positions, one of those days where we knew that the back three was going to be what it was. We weren't sure whether it was going to be Emerson Royal or Matt Dougherty that gets the nod at right wing back. For me personally, I said before the game, I probably would have rather had Emerson Royal, and how wrong I was. I think Matt Dougherty played the best game he's ever played in a Tottenham shirt. You know, he played 90 minutes. I think he played the last 10 or 15 minutes playing more on the left-hand side, but for the 80 minutes or the 75 minutes he was playing on the right side of the pitch, absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, he got the goal in the first 10 minutes from making that late run into the box when Sessegnon got put through. He also he had the assist when he did the 1-2 with Kulusevski for the second goal. And in terms of touches, you know, he had 70 touches, 69 touches, which I think compared to Sessegnon, I think it was like 2.5 times, we'll see in a moment, but 2.5 times the amount of touches that Sessegnon had. His pass accuracy was fantastic. He made 46 passes, 41 of them were perfect. 2 of them were key passes as well, obviously one for the goal. He was 100% accurate with all of his crosses, all of his long balls. He had a couple of shots. He could have scored a second goal as well. And he had a successful dribble. In terms of like statistics, Matt Dougherty was pretty much flawless. I gave him an 8.5 out of 10. And I think it was fantastic to see him, not just when he had the ball, but when he didn't have the ball, he was always there ready to make runs into the box on the right-hand side to support Kane, Kulusevski, Sonny, and Sessegnon. I thought all round it was just a fantastic, phenomenal performance from him. And one that, you know, hopefully we can see more of going forward. I think this was hopefully the start of something, you know, more consistent from him, and hopefully he can get a run of games in the team. It looked like he benefited massively, obviously, from having Romero sat behind him quite wide as well, which allowed him to feel more confident that he didn't have to necessarily be back all the time. He could stay up the pitch. And I think Tottenham tactically went and lent to the right-hand side throughout the game. So for me, I think it really suited him. Emerson would have been the wrong man on the day. I can say that now with the benefit of hindsight, but like I said, before the game, I called for Emerson to start instead of him. And I would have been wrong, and I was wrong to say that. So I've given him an 8.5 out of 10. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. And just for what it's worth, keep an eye on these stats, or remember these stats as we look at Sessegnon, because a lot of the content, a lot of the commentary following the game has been kind of like very positive about the wing-backs generally. And I think that whilst Ryan Sessegnon did have a good game for what he was asked to do, if you compare the stats, I know he only played 80 minutes or 78 minutes, but he touched the ball only 28 times during the game. You know, in terms of his pass accuracy, he only passed the ball 11 times. 9 of them came off. His crosses, only 1 of them came off. The one that mattered, I guess you could argue, he got the assist on the initial goal. And his long balls, you know, only 1 of the 2 actually made it to where it's supposed to be. He lost half the ground duels, or he won only half the ground duels that he was involved in. Didn't win anything aerially. He did lose the ball 6 times, you know. And so I just think that I don't want to be too harsh on him. He's a young guy. He's got a lot of potential. He's had a bad run of injuries over his career. And you know what? When he's been asked to come in generally against the bigger teams, the tougher teams, he has done a good job this season. I wasn't disappointed with him on the day, but when you reflect after the fact and think about, well, should we be praising Dougherty and Sessegnon in equal measure? I don't think we should be. I think Sessegnon was fantastic getting the early goal, which settled the whole team down. And whilst I acknowledge that most of the play was down the right-hand side for Tottenham, so it's difficult to criticise a guy for not having too many touches if the ball wasn't coming his way. But you can't argue with the fact that in 80 minutes he only touched the ball less than 30 times, which is less than half of what, you know, Matt Dougherty did. And some of his passing wasn't particularly accurate, and he lost the ball. He got dispossessed a fair few times for the amount of times that he actually had the ball. So I give him a 7 out of 10. Like onward and upward with Ryan Sessegnon. I think that Serge Reguilon is obviously still our first choice left wing back. But it's nice to know that we've got someone who can come in and do a job. It's nice to know we do have competition for places. And I really wish the best for Ryan Sessegnon. I hope he can go on and kick on and really develop into the sort of player that I think we all see that he can become. But on the day, I just worry a little bit that some of the feedback, some of the kind of the plaudits were given a little bit too much to him. He did one great pass, but I think after that, he was a little bit anonymous during the game. And so I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. But it's a positive 7, but I just don't think you can compare. I don't think you should, throw the baby out with the bathwater when you're trying to give too much credit to the wing backs. I think Matt Dougherty gets all the plaudits and Ryan Sessegnon deserves some, but by no means as many as Dougherty gets. Interesting one for Harry Winks. I gave him a 7 out of 10. Look, he had a great dribble for his first goal. It's not something we usually see from Harry Winks. Harry sideways, whatever you want to, a lot of people weren't sure how he was going to step up. We were terrified about losing Bentancur, terrified that Oliver Skipp is still out, and only having 2 recognised midfielders requires Harry Kane to come a little bit deeper. But even with that, with that added support from Harry Kane, who seems to be able to play in any position the best on the park, I thought Harry Winks generally, I thought yesterday was pretty solid. He played the entire game. He touched the ball nearly 70 times. He had a 91% pass accuracy, which, I think that Harry Winks is sometimes guilty of kind of manipulating the stats a little bit. I think he likes to, get rid of the ball a little bit unnecessarily sometimes, give the easy pass. I do think he's one of those types of players who do like to try to get their percentages up. Consider and kind of flatter to deceive a little bit. But I think yesterday, Harry Winks, I thought he put in a really solid performance. He was trying lots of different things. He's putting long balls in, which he was relatively successful. He was involved for 2 key moments of the game. Obviously, he got the pre-assist for the first, and he was busy for Harry Kane's third goal as well, for the Harry Kane goal as well. And I think he was busy in the build up to the Kulusevski goal as well. So. On the ball, I thought he was pretty good. Off the ball, I've still got reservations about Harry Winks. I think he's the sort of player who doesn't necessarily think that defending is something he has to do. And if you look at the stats yesterday of the ground duels he participated in, he only got, only 20% of them were successful for him. He did lose the ball 8 times. Out of the 67 times he got the ball, eight of them he actually lost the ball. He was dribbled past a little bit as well. So I don't know. For me, the jury's very much still out. I certainly don't think he's ever going to be my favourite player for Tottenham. But I think on the day he put in a solid shift, and I'll give him, just like Ryan Sessegnon, a solid 7 out of 10. And listen, he's all we've got for the next couple of weeks until Bentancur comes back. So we need him to stay fit, stay healthy, put in a good shift tomorrow night against Middlesbrough and probably against Everton as well. And hopefully after the Everton game, we will be back at least with one of Bentancur or Skipp, if not both, within the next couple of weeks. So, listen, there's no point in putting too much hatred or throwing too much mud his way. We do a lot of that in the Spurs community, and right now he's all we've got. So let's get behind him, let's back him, and hopefully he can put in more solid performances. Yesterday wasn't spectacular, certainly defensively. It wasn't great. Like I say, he did lose the ball a little bit too much, but it didn't lead to anything too catastrophic. I do think he was actually at fault for losing the ball when Leeds hit the post in the first half. But like I say, overall, better on the ball than off it, as always with Harry Winks. And it was nice to see him making forward runs, and nice to see him trying a bit more, creative stuff. And he seemed to work well with Højbjerg yesterday, albeit against a team that were way off the mark. It remains to be seen how he'll do against a team that presses him. Because we know that he's someone who doesn't like the ball at his feet when he's being rushed to find the pass. And I think tomorrow night against Middlesbrough might be a game where Chris Wilder will take a look at that and say, this is an area where we can have some success, put the pressure on Harry Winks. Leeds didn't do it. We'll see if Middlesbrough do. If they do, we'll get a bit of a better idea of whether Harry Winks is turning a corner or whether it was just one of those days where he had a good moment but then goes back to type moving forward. Remains to be seen. I gave him a 7 out of 10, and we'll move on to Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Højbjerg for me was definitely the better of the two central midfielders. I mean, first and foremost, yeah, like I say, let's just go through the stats quickly. 77 touches, up there with the most, I think, just slightly behind Christian Romero on the day. 90% accuracy, that's about right. You're not going to get them right all the time. But he came back defensively. He was pretty solid. It looks like he was more hanging on the right hand side as well. He seemed to support Romero. He seemed to support Dougherty a little bit more than he would otherwise normally do. I don't know if this was a tactic that Conte asked to give those guys some support defensively to allow Dougherty to move forward. But obviously, the kind of the number one point that I want to talk about with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, he does get a lot of stick sometimes for his ability to create things with the ball. People see him more of like someone who's going to break up the play, be a leader, and kind of hustle and bustle and disrupt up the opponents. But they don't give him too much credit for his competence on the ball. And they say that a lot of the time that he kind of just passes the ball sideways. That wasn't the case yesterday, or that wasn't the case against Leeds. He attempted 7 kind of long balls, if you like, into the channels, into Sonny, into Sessegnon, into Kulusevski. 5 of them were obviously successful, but the moment that was just absolutely sublime was the goal by Harry Kane was just phenomenal. The touch, the loft, the elevation, the pace on the ball, it came out of nowhere. The sort of thing you'd expect from someone that's far more considered or far more highly respected and praised as a passer or as a creative midfielder. But it came with such sublime elegance that you have to kind of tip your hat to Højbjerg. Don't get me wrong, it was still had a lot of work for Harry Kane to find the back of the net, and Harry Kane took it with absolute consummate ease, with over his shoulder and with his weaker foot, if he has got one, just slotted it past the Leeds goalkeeper. But it's worth just remembering that's something that was just out of this world for me, and I was on my feet applauding and just in shock that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg had that in him. I didn't know he did, and he does, and it's fantastic. It would be great to see more of it from Højbjerg. I gave him an 8 out of 10. Like I say, he got the assist. He had successful dribbles. The long balls were fantastic. He definitely contributed more defensively than Harry Winks, but then everyone does. And he had a lot more action, a lot more touches on the ball. And I think it's just nice to see him as well drifting out to the right-hand side to support Romero and Dougherty. And that's where obviously we got a lot of our success. So you have to say that for me, on the day, he was the best midfielder of the two. And yeah, please bring that sort of level of passing and technique again. PEH, we love to see more of it, buddy. Next to my favourite player for Tottenham, or my new favourite player for Tottenham, Dejan Kulusevski. He actually, you know what? I'm not going to say he's my favourite player. Harry Kane and Sonny have done nothing to lose that mantle, but he is an absolute treat to watch. This guy, 21 years old, the ginger Swede. He only played 80 minutes. Obviously, the goal itself was just phenomenal. How he managed to like a little bit of luck with the way that the Leeds defender kind of ran past the ball, but the strength he showed, the vision he shows. When he gets the ball, it's a little bit different than when people like Lucas Moura or Bergwijn get the ball. They're usually kind of head down, trying to worry about what they're doing. And then once they get through their first challenge, their first obstacle, then they look up and they're not really sure where the ball needs to go. With Decky, he looks like the sort of player who is incredibly intelligent. He gets the ball. First thing he does is he looks up and in that fraction of a second can take everything in, can see exactly where the defense are, see exactly where the opportunities are, knows what to do with the ball, whether it's unselfish and knocking the ball over to Harry Kane or to Sonny at the back post or any of the options, whether it's just playing it back because there's nothing quite that's built there in the offensive mindset yet, or whether it's what the best thing for me to do here is to take it with my left foot and have a crack. He looks like he can figure out very quickly what is the best use of the ball in that moment and usually makes the right choice. He's not selfish, nor is he afraid to have a crack. And that is a wonderful balance for someone so young. He's also, I think, a lot faster on the ball than people give him credit. I think that a lot of people have seen him recently, and because we're comparing him to what we already have in Sonny, Bergwijn and Lucas Moura, we think, oh, he's slow because he's not as fast as them. And I think that's a misnomer. I think he isn't as fast as those guys, but he doesn't need to be. He offers something very different. He's incredibly strong. He's capable. He gets back to defend as well. And and he's happy to get stuck in. Look at that. He had 13 duels and he won 9 of them. And that is something that is unusual for a wing forward, and but it's something to behold. Like I say, he got the goal. He had both shots on target. He could have had a second one. He had a couple of the block shots as well during the game. He was very involved. 54 touches of the ball, 90% accuracy. I just thought he had an absolute superstar performance. I give him the 8.5 out of 10, because I think it was the all-round effort. Like he was involved defensively, and if you look at the heat map, you'll see that there's no one particular area where he spent most of his time. He was very mobile. He got everywhere across that right-hand side of the pitch, spread himself out appropriately, and so I think that that's something that maybe has gone a little bit unnoticed. Is that he's someone that's hard to predict. He's hard to pick up because he's always moving. He's always looking for space, looking over his shoulders, always looking to stay sort of secluded from pressure. And that's a lovely, wonderful asset to have in a team, rather than people that just kind of stick to their pockets. And that allows for defenders to be able to kind of go, well, that's where that guy's always going to be, so I'll make sure I'm there. With Kulusevski, I don't think defenders know where he's going to be. And so it's always something for them to be thinking about, and something for us to take advantage of when you've got the likes of Harry Kane dropping deep, who can look up and find a pass anywhere. Kulusevski usually is in space because he doesn't stand still for very long. And I just think he's absolutely class in his introduction into the Premier League, introduction into English football. I think he's absolutely made for it. I think he's going to be a superstar to come. He was my first choice signing long before the window happened in January. I used to refer to him as like a young Kevin De Bruyne, not just because he looks like it, but because he kind of plays a little bit like it as well. But I did actually think he was more two-footed than he is. He looks very one-footed, but his left foot does look like it's it's effortless what he wants to do with the ball. He can pass, he can shoot, he can do chips, he can float the ball, he can hold people off. He's strong, he's tall as well. We haven't seen what he's like in the air very much, but he's taller than most of the players that he's up against on the right side, or most of the left wing backs. So there's lots more to come from this guy. But what an introduction! And he's looking like absolute steel. Whatever we paid for him, £10 million as a loan, 10 million euros as a loan, I think it was, for a year or two, and then also we have the right to buy him for 30 or 40 million. Pay the money. I think he's going to be an absolute world-class superstar for Tottenham if he can continue to develop and grow as he is. Stay injury-free, of course, and also if Tottenham can continue to improve and get better as a team. Wonderful performance from him, and he was close to getting my man of the match. He was one of the top 3, either him, Matt Dougherty, we've already spoken about, or Harry Kane, who we'll talk about in a minute. First of all, I just want to talk about Heung-min Son. Listen, Heung-min Son, it was wonderful for him to share or to beat the record with Harry Kane. He got his goal right at the end, and what an absolute delightful ball across from Harry Kane. We won't talk about that until we get to him, but the finish from him was from Sonny was superb. On the day he had 4 shots, all of them were on target. But the first 3, I thought he could have done better. I think that some of them were a little bit, I wouldn't say sloppy, just I think he maybe made the wrong choice where to put the ball. But I thought his performance yesterday was, generally speaking, he was very busy, worked really hard for the team, and he was well worth his goal when he finally got it towards the end. He participated in 9 ground duels during the game as well. He was very successful. He won 7 of them. But, he did lose the ball a few times as well. I think he lost the ball 11 times out of the 60-odd touches that he got. Again, accuracy, 32 out of 35 passes went to where they were supposed to be. His crosses, unfortunately, only one of them was successful, but it doesn't matter, because I think he works really well for the team. And again, if you look at the heat map, you can see it's another player here who isn't afraid to move, to shift, to become mobile. And I think that's something that we're seeing that maybe we're not always talking about, that what we're looking at with this 4-3-3 with Harry Kane coming deep is we're asking for Sonny and Kulusevski to be unpredictable with your positioning, because we know that Harry Kane can look up and he's got that telepathy with Sonny. I think he's developing it with Kulusevski as well. But that ability Harry Kane can look up, examine, and find the pass every time. And it allows for Sonny and Kulusevski to be a little bit kind of dynamic with where they want to be, where they want to flow to. on the pitch to create space to keep the opposition guessing. And I think that Heung-min Son yesterday, he played 87 minutes. Look, he got his goal. I gave him a 7.5 out of 10. He probably could have got an 8 out of 10. I just think it's important to differentiate between the players that really shone and the players that were really good contributors and allowed those other players to shine. And I think that Heung-min Son was probably just off the top tier yesterday. I gave him a 7.5. Could have been an 8. And I think he had a really great game. Great game with the ball at his feet as well. Lots of dribbling, lots of running at the defence, and you could see when he was in the first 70 minutes before he got that goal, he was getting very frustrated. I think he always felt there was a goal there for him in the game, and he was getting frustrated that we were 3-0 up and he hadn't got on the score sheet. But he was patient, and eventually we got to see that lovely smile on his face when this man, Harry Kane, who was on a different level throughout the 90 minutes, managed to find that just sweet, sublime overhead long ball into Sonny late on to allow him to get that goal, and as it came from an assist from Harry Kane, for them to break the record, that long held record of Didier Drogba and Frank Lampard was 36 goal and assists as a partnership. Well, Harry Kane and Sonny now have done that, and they've still hopefully got years to come where they can double that tally and get to a point where it will be a record that's never broken again. The two just work so well together. They know each other's game inside and out, and the telepathy is something to behold. And you know what? Both of them, they share the record. Sonny's got 18 of the goals, and Harry Kane's got 19 of the goals, which means that Sonny's got 19 of the assists, and Harry Kane's got 18 of the assists. So it's a wonderful shared record. No one contributes more than the other. But on the day yesterday, I thought that Harry Kane contributed a little bit more than anybody else on the pitch, a lot more than anybody else on the pitch. I gave him a 9 out of 10. He had 4 key passes during the game, which is the most by anybody. I mean, he was involved in ground duels. He was involved in aerial duels. He wasn't perfect. He lost the ball. 20 times, which was the most of all of the times he got the ball. But he was doing that in positions he was always getting hustled and bustled. 55 touches. His passes weren't probably the weakest in terms of pass completion on the pitch. But you know what? This is why statistics are not necessarily something you want to take too much away from, because they're an aid to your opinion, but they shouldn't be the basis of your opinion. Because Harry Kane to the eye yesterday was an absolute superstar. I gave him a 9 out of 10. Probably I would give him a 9.5 out of 10, but I'm mean with my scoring. He got a goal and an assist. He could have got more, and he was everywhere. The thing about Harry Kane is, we're asking him to come deep and to support the midfield too, because we haven't got the depth in the squad there. And sometimes people think that you're sacrificing, if you're asking your best goal scorer to come deep to receive the ball, you're sacrificing his ability to get forward. And it's just not the case with Harry Kane. He has the ability to come deep to win the ball. He can find a pass, thread a ball. He can go long. He can go short. He can go direct. He can do 1-2s. He is literally, the best person on the pitch at doing whatever he is doing. He's probably the best tackler. If you asked him to be a centre-back, he'd probably be just as good as Christian Romero. He's that talented of a football player. And, I don't have enough words in my vocabulary to describe how fluent he seems to be in whatever role he's asked to be. His passes are just generally, his crossing from wide is generally better than the wing forwards. His long balls are better than anybody else's, and the ball for Sonny was just out of this world. It couldn't have been any more perfectly placed for Sonny to go and finish what was laid up for him. As I say, in terms of the statistics, you could argue that maybe he was a little bit weaker than the seeing eye, but on the day, I think it was almost the perfect performance, and he's pivotal in every single part. And if you look at the heat map, for me, it's one of those another one of those stories where he gets everywhere. He runs more than anybody else, and you know what? He's so essential for Tottenham, not just into the last kind of 13, 14 games of the season, but going forward. Why would you sell him? If you can hang on to him, you must do it at all costs. Give him a new contract, because whatever money you're going to get for him, you're never going to be able to replace him as a striker. He's worth more than any striker because he's more than a striker. He's a midfielder. He's a creative midfielder. He can play defensive. He's a long ball specialist. He's pretty much everything. He's the perfect player, the complete player, and he's priceless for Tottenham. So I give him the man of the match, and it wasn't even close. Well, like I say, I think Dougherty didn't just have his best game. I thought he played a brilliant performance at any level, but it's only the first we've seen of him, so we need to see more from him. I thought Højbjerg was great. I thought Sessegnon was good. I thought Kulusevski was fantastic as well, but we need to see more from this. This is a sort of performance where you can take individual performances and reflect on them more than you can the team. Has Tottenham overcome this Spursy mentality where you win against Man City, lose against Burnley, win against Leeds? How are we going to do tomorrow? How are we going to do against Everton? We never really know what type of team Tottenham puts out. But, it's nice to be positive at the moment. Individually, I think everyone yesterday or everyone the other day had was solid. And it's going to be really important to get Skippy and Bentancur back as quickly as possible to give ourselves a little bit more options on the bench. But none of those will be ready for Middlesbrough tomorrow. I'm not going to be doing the preview of that game. All I will say is that I think it's a game where Chris Wilder is one of those kind of managers that tries to find whatever the weaknesses are within the team he's playing against and will look to exploit them. I think we have to be very solid at the back. I think we have to be wary of long balls, of crosses, of aerial threats. And I think we're going to need Eric Dier and Ben Davies to be solid. And I think that it's going to be a tough night up in Middlesbrough. It's not an easy place to play. Tottenham don't do very well in the northeast generally, especially in cup games. So it's not going to be a walk in the park by any stretch of the imagination. I think it will be, ultimately, I think Tottenham will be too good for them. I think it will probably be 1-1 at half-time, and then maybe we'll get a second goal, and then Middlesbrough will have to come out and play, and then eventually we'll get the third on the break. But don't be surprised if this one is a frustrating affair. As long as we get through, we'll put ourselves in the draw for the quarterfinals, and then if we can avoid, Chelsea and Liverpool, then who knows what will happen. It could be one of those years where things materialise. That's my player ratings, guys. I hope you didn't mind listening. 37 minutes of me ranting as a monologue. I'm going to have to watch it back, see if it was any good or not. It's the first time I've done a player ratings, and I might have been really boring. But that's me. That is me. You never know what you're going to get. Thanks for stopping by if you have watched it. If you haven't already, please like and press the subscribe button if you haven't. And you will see me tomorrow night on the Irish Hotspur for the watch along for the Middlesbrough game, and then back here probably on Wednesday or Thursday for a preview show with some guests that will be hopefully an eclectic panel. We'll play some games. We'll do what we usually do, and it will hopefully be fun and banterous. And that's what we do on the Spurs Talk Show. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Like, share, subscribe, and as always, come on, you Spurs!